This is an attack piece.
That is not by my campaign.
What says paid for by John McCain?
That is not by my campaign.
You're not worth being on the same platform.
I'll tell you something, Mr. Clinton. Don't try to escape.
Well, that hurts my feelings.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
You're not forgotten anymore.
Hi, I'm Terry Kolath. I'm here with Wayne Swanson of Turban. We're talking about a course he is team teaching with J. Kelly Wright of the Estuary. And the course is coming up, Can Government's Efforts to Limit Political Campaign Spending Withstand the Scrutiny of the First Amendment? A long title, but
It's a long title.
It's a very important topic these days.
Well, this course originated actually in my last class in October when I talked about the congressional elections. At the end of the class, somebody asked a question about, because people were beginning to get fatigued with all the TV commercials and such. Somebody said, isn't there any way that we can limit spending and the domination of commercials on the media? And my response was not carefully crafted, because I simply said, well, probably not, because the Supreme Court really messed things up in a case that happened in 2010, in which they basically said that money is speech. And therefore, the First Amendment says that Congress can't make any laws abridging freedom of speech. Therefore, you can't control money, at least to the extent that we've been trying to do that. So there's a conflict here, because a lot of people, feel as though, that money is dominating elections, and voters in particular. Now, this is a nonpartisan reaction. This is not just one party. I'm going to show some data. Both members of both parties, citizens, basically want to do something to streamline the process. I mean,
Questions. Is it because there are more extraordinarily wealthy people now who are interested in politics, or is it because there's more because of television?
Oh, the media is a major factor. This is the way you get your message across, and you can if you have the funds, you can do it. And so now, virtually, there are some regulations. I mean, it's not a free market here, and they have controlled it. But what the Supreme Court did was basically saying that you cannot limit the amount of money an individual or a group spends on a campaign. You can control where that money and how it's channeled, but you can't limit the total number of dollars. And so therefore, you establish your own little committees, and you spend as much money as you can. So if the court had changed one way or the other way, it could have been this decision would have come out differently. So the question is, well, supposing it had, would there have been a way to craft a decision which would have allowed the limitations on unlimited giving to get rid of that? And there is a way. I'm not going to tell you about that today, though. You have to go to the class to hear that.
But what about all the implications about people who aren't wealthy enough to control the message?
That's a problem. I mean, that's one of the problems. And the elected officials today are in a position where they require big bucks to run a campaign. After this decision, this decision was in Citizens United versus Federal Elections Commission. It was decided in 2010, and since that decision, the amount of money pouring into campaigns has just grown tremendously. It's unwieldy, and it does, so that basically your political candidates are really forced to get as much money as they can, and they're almost always looking for money in the next campaign.
Sure.
And so
the whole time they're in office, they're running for the next office.
And I mean, and you know, unfortunately, if you like short, crisp campaigns, you're living in the wrong country.
Exactly.
I mean,
The
we are already, you know, winding up for the presidential election, which is a year and 3/4 away, and we're going to begin to see those commercials very quickly.
Well, I love it when you and Jay team teach. Your background's political science. You're a political science professor. What does Jay bring to it?
He brings the lawyer. He's a lawyer. In fact, I want to talk about that when I introduce the class. That a lawyer and Jay said, well, I can defend the Supreme Court's decision.
He clerked for a Supreme Court.
He's clerked for a Supreme Court, yes. And he says, I can defend that. He said. And he brings the law into it. Now, it's not like I don't bring the law into it, but political scientists, if they see a problem, they look for a solution. And if it means trying to sort of stretch the law or maybe change the law, they're usually willing to do that. And so that's the dynamics of our relationship.
And that's what makes your lectures.
Yeah. Because we have these luncheons. In fact, this topic here came through our luncheon because Jay brought up my comment at my last class, and so we discussed it. And I said, "Well, here's our next class." I said, "You know, if you're willing to do that, I'm willing to do this," and here we are.
Those of you who have signed up for this class will be the benefits of all of this. And let's remember, it is, can government's efforts to limit political campaign spending withstand the scrutiny of the First Amendment? With Wayne Swanson and J. Kelly Wright. I hope you'll join us.